Welcome back to another election edition of Meet Victoria with Caleb Shaw, and we are powered by ThriveFuel Digital Marketing. Guys, do not forget, early voting is February 14th through the 25th, and Election Day is March 1st. Now, I'm excited for this next guest because this is for an office that, and I know you guys have probably heard me say this a time or two, but sadly, I don't know much about. So I'm glad to learn, and I'm glad to get spun up. And so without further ado, young lady, if you wouldn't mind, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what made you want to run for Lieutenant Governor.
I'm Trayce Bradford. I'm actually a native Victorian. I grew up here, went to high school. I was here when I guess, age of 5. My family still is here. Why in the world would I run for Lieutenant Governor? As a mother, a homeschool mom of 7, and a grandmother, that was not on my list. I did not want to be ever run for office. I actually have been a grassroots activist down there for the last 14 years, going down to the Capitol during session every week, working legislation, and I thought that's what I would continue to do. But then after the last several years, just being disappointed over and over by some of the leadership and their choices. One bill was the grid. I've worked on securing the grid. I don't know if y'all got cold last February, but we did.
We got a little cold. Yeah, everything froze up for 2 or 3 days, and there was a lot of lessons learned during that thing. Yes,
you
ma'am.
would have hoped.
You know what? Good point. You got me there. Yes, ma'am.
Well, we were out for 4 days. We were freezing. I thought the irony, because we started working on this in 2015. So when you have gone and talked to these people over and over, and they just kind of push it aside, and then this happens, you would have thought, oh, they'd track down the man who had all the knowledge and bring this legislation forward, and they really didn't. Now they tell us it's fixed. And I don't know about you guys, but we're about to have some really cold weather up there, and I'm hoping we don't go into the freeze again.
No repeats. Well, I wanted to ask, kind of from my own ignorance, what is the role of Lieutenant Governor? What exactly do they do? Is it to keep the governor honest? Is it to light him up? Is it to work in tandem? Talk me through what the role of Lieutenant Governor is.
So in Texas, the Lieutenant Governor is actually the most powerful role, and that's not why I picked it. But
if you were going to, God bless you. Way to go for the big one. Yes, ma'am.
But what's interesting is in Texas, you have the governor's the executive branch. The Lieutenant Governor is the legislative branch. So he's called the President of the Senate, or she is called the President of the Senate. So legislation, our governor's not supposed to be passing legislation, which is kind of what was happening under the executive orders for almost 2 years. It should have gone through the Senate. And so really one of the most important things that the Lieutenant Governor does is he's a gatekeeper. And that role is for legislation that comes in. The Lieutenant Governor gets to decide where that goes, what committee, who runs those committees, and if that bill moves at all. It's a very powerful position because you can run out the clock, which we see a lot of times. You can push stuff to the very end and pass it, and you're running the clock out that way. But the governor cannot pass his points. When he comes out the beginning, the first 60 days, that's supposed to be passing his emergency items. If the Lieutenant Governor isn't on it, you can kill that legislation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, I did not know that. One of the things that I was going to ask is, why are you the right person to replace the incumbent? But you almost answered that when you said a homeschool mom of 7. That's quite impressive. I've got a 2-year-old at home, and my wife does an amazing job. And I had for a second, I was like, holy crap, if she had 7 of my son, she'd have her hands full. And so, but I also, what better person to go out and lead than somebody that's raised 7 children and done so from home. I think that's something to brag about, and so well done. And so, but on that note, instead of me answering for you, why are you the right person to replace the incumbent?
I have been, like I said, going down and working on pro-life, pro-family legislation. Actually, a lot of the stuff I worked on too is national security and how it applied to Texas. Go figure, homeschool mom getting into that. But my faith is my bedrock, and my word is my bond. If I say something, I'm going to do it. But really and truly, after watching this, I've been a state delegate. I've led a statewide organization that was nationally known. I'm now the national chair for Eagle Forum, that same organization as the on the issue of human trafficking. I know legislation. I know how our system works. I wrote curriculum actually before I knew I was going to run about the entire legislative process, when you testify, the history of our Constitution, all the agencies. There's a lot to it, and I spent a lot of time down there. Like I said, I would go down every week, work legislation. Sometimes my husband went with me, and other times he's back running the house, helping to school.
Yes,
but
ma'am.
we just believed it was that important, and you don't work for Eagle Forum, and again, it was volunteer, but you don't work for them if you don't know your stuff. And so over time, I love policy, so I spent a lot of time digging into that, but I also like to know how things work.
Yes, ma'am.
The other side of it is I've been a delegate. I don't know if you've talked to some of the people that you've had in. I go to the state convention, and so these priorities that you hear people talk about, the things that that matter to the Conservative Party, I've worked on those too, because I've been to those conventions year after year, and it's a way that we give a list, and both sides do this, both parties. You give a list to your leaders in your party, and it makes it very simple for what matters to the people. And so with all of that, and I've been down there, I know the system, I know the people, I know the building. I have a chair, I had a bench there where they called it my office because they saw me so often. So, and I have a passion to see this. I love this state, and I think everybody knows, and I can tell you by going around the state, people that aren't even involved in politics are concerned. Property taxes. Is the border secure? Because they're concerned for their children too. I mean, it's been amazing to me that you just sit down and talk to people you've never met, and you listen to their story, and they are on the same they're on the same page with all of us, and they are not political.
Right.
And so you walk away from that and you're like, okay, I just told that person I stand for that, and if I'm going to do that, then I stand by my word. That's my commitment. It's not, I'd say the biggest thing, I'm not looking to move up. This isn't a run for this to run for that.
Yes, ma'am.
This is get the job done and go home and be a mom and a grandma.
Well, I would argue that probably part of the reason why you're seeing people who normally wouldn't follow politics that are engaged in it somewhat now is because they're frustrated, and because it doesn't seem like Austin or they are listening to us, and as you just alluded to, is they have what is important to us. They have those lists. They have
That's right.
We fill out those little things all the time. Hey,
You're
this
right.
is what it's important to us. And it's almost, I've gotten to a point where I've almost quit filling those out, because it feels like that's something that they throw us red meat to where, hey, we feel like they're listening, and then they go and they do all the things that they want to do. And none of those, Governor Abbott's been in, he's coming up on the end of his term, but it wasn't until the midnight hour that he decided to phone all these, these bills in here at the end. And that's frustrating for a lot of us, because it's like, well, why didn't you do this in the beginning? Or it's, the Republicans are notorious for, we'll get us in, and next time we're in, this is the time that we're really going to get after it.
Playbook. I'm impressed.
And it's annoying to most of us, because it feels like they're over there padding their own resumes instead of listening to their constituents. And then every time election comes, they throw out some pandering. Hey, vote for me, I'm going to fix all that. Well, you had 4 years, and you're in Texas, where I would argue that it's conservative. Like, you should be able to pass these things if it's good legislation.
19 years.
Yep.
19 years they've held all state offices in both the House and the Senate.
Yes, ma'am.
And property taxes was supposed to be something they addressed. And something your audience might find interesting, election integrity. And that whole fight for election integrity started years ago with a Democrat race in Fort Worth. So this isn't just about one side. This is a concern that all votes matter and that all votes count. And the very first real deep dive on that came out of a guy working out of Fort Worth when it was a Democrat lost his seat, and they found evidence of fraud. And so I think it's kind of funny when people say, well, there's no fraud. Well, there's been fraud
That's
since the
only if a
beginning of
Democrat
time.
wins, and then if a Republican wins, it's the Russians. And so that's the only way that goes there. And so, well, you mentioned something that, I'm a real estate broker in my real job. And so one of the things that I noticed that is just, since I've started, is taxpayers getting killed. And every year there's all this relief that is promised to them. And I even saw, and I don't mean to bag on Governor Abbott, but he keeps taking victory laps on things. And property taxes, I just read a deal where he's like, we've solved this. And I can safely say he has not. And I will lead with, I think taxation is theft. But that being said, I think as long as they have these property taxes coming in, that revenue from that will always be going up, and so they don't have any incentive to go out and cut it. I could hold my nose for a consumption tax, because a consumption tax, to me, everybody pays, and you truly own your home.
Yep. You're not paying rent for something you
absolutely
own,
yes,
you
ma'am.
own.
But that said, I don't ever see that as even gaining ground, because I think you overnight so many different people lose power and all these lobbying groups and all of that.
Until somebody, you should run for office. Until somebody.
No, ma'am, I'd much rather talk to you all. But thank you.
Until somebody, and I think if you listen to these other candidates, the gubernatorial candidates, they've got some good plans, and I love the fact that I actually have been tracking with them. But you've got to have somebody who has the guts to say this has to stop. When you say we've done, not you, but when they try to tell us, oh, look at the property tax relief, you got $175 back. With inflation, that's 2 skirt steaks at this point. I mean, that doesn't help us. And I actually talked to a man who he said, I got the over 65 exemption, and I paid more than I ever have. And when you are looking at people losing their homes, this isn't 1 story or 2 stories, you don't walk away from that and forget it. And I when you think about the founders, they talked about property, and there was a reason that was important. And for us to tax the property, just like you said, you don't even really, you're not owning it, it's theft.
Absolutely.
And it's not right. And so until people are willing, when we talk about this question and people ask about it, I'm like, you said it. We can have a great idea of how to pull down property tax, but then you also have the problem with the school districts who, they're concerned about that. And it's like you're going to have this extra money, and they'll just keep spending, as opposed to returning it back to the citizens, or not taking it in the first place.
Right.
And so there's a lot of work that needs to be done, but for the health of Texas, we're now at the 6th highest property taxes in the nation, and that is absurd.
After we've been promised that it's been fixed.
Exactly.
Yes, ma'am.
And those are the key words, and you've just said over and over, you're targeting this, and you're right on. Is there's a lot that they do to get you to look over here, or throw you some crumbs, and at the end of the, when you walk away and you read, I always say read the bill, read the bill, read the bill. If there's something
you got to pass it first. You got to pass it, then
No, somebody actually, we were on this very thing. It was happening with the election integrity. And it's like, please stop talking to all of us like we're stupid. And I think what they're realizing is there are a lot of people out there watching and paying attention, and they care about their family, they care about the legacy, and they're speaking up.
Well, I think you can get away, for years I feel like they've been kind of, we'll just let it go in this area, we'll let it go. Well, now people walk outside and everything's on fire. The border's on fire, their taxes are on fire, everything, and then the politicians in charge are saying, no, you guys are we fixed all this, or give us 4 more years. Now we're really going to fix it even better this time. And again, the general sense of, I think if they'd actually go in and do what they said, they would find out that they had the support, but it always seems like our side is trying to pacify the other side, or become the Democrats' favorite Republican, and why? And I've eaten up all your time talking about my stuff.
I'm very impressed, because I can tell you right now, you're saying everything that we have witnessed, we've tried to work against. You've nailed it, and I appreciate the fact that you are wanting to bring people up to speed on, especially your local elections, because it starts there.
Yes, ma'am.
But the fact that you're willing to take the time to educate people on this and to tell them they're not crazy.
Thank you for listening. I appreciate it. Before I steal all your time, though, talk to me a little bit. How's the campaign going? What's anything different than what you thought, or has it been even better, even worse? What are you thinking?
I think even better. We're going against 27 million, and he has the bully pulpit.
Yes,
but
ma'am.
at the same time, we are having time to drive. We've been around the state. We were in Alpine, San Angelo, and Bastrop within 24 hours, and swooping back around. But I've loved meeting people and seeing people really get engaged and activated. And we went down to the border. Those are our fellow Texans.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm a compassionate person, but I also am a person that understands the rule of law. And I will tell you, the most important thing that I've seen, and when we connect with people, is we've forgotten that rule of law is not, you can't do this. It is a protection for everyone, for us to operate from a basis.
Yes,
but
ma'am.
the other thing is we've forgotten consent of the governed. And we are letting people take our rights away, give them back to us, and we thank them.
Yes, ma'am, we are.
cheer on.
Yes, we are.
We're not going to have a vaccine mandate in businesses. Yay! Wait. We
Yeah.
shouldn't have had it from the beginning. And you know who knew that was coming and did nothing? Our governor and lieutenant governor.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I appreciate your time. How can somebody follow your campaign that wants to?
Thank you. We are, so my dad, again, native Victorian, he decided to spell my name a strange way. So if you're going to look us up on social media or go to our website, it's Trayce, Trayce, number 4, Trayce4Texas.com. And we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, and Instagram, and we're getting on a couple other places. That's not my, I'm learning. I'm learning.
Well, you guys have been great to deal with, and your staff. Everybody's been
I have a great campaign
spectacular.
manager.
She was
awesome.
great. She's done awesome. I would love to, if you win this seat, I would love to have you come back during the general,
Absolutely.
or if you stay engaged, win or lose. You're always welcome on this show, because I feel like we could sit down and talk for a while, and I'd love to hear your insight on a lot of things. And again, thank you for running. It's an intrusion into your time, into your family. This is all time away from home that you go and you were seeking to do something better. And so thank you for that, and for the sacrifices you made to try to help this country and this state. I appreciate you, ma'am. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Do not forget, early voting is February 14th through the 25th. Election day is March 1st. Thank you to Ms. Trayce Bradford for coming on, and you can vote for her for Texas Lieutenant Governor. Guys, we will see you at the next one.